har lyst til at starte aftenen med lidt champagne. Det lyder dejligt.
Jeg er i bil. Jeg skal bare have en dansk mand uden citrus.
Uden citrus, ja tak.
Ja.
Kæft, det er godt, det her.
Ja, det er sgu synd, du er så fornuftig.
Men spørgsmålet er, hvad der i virkeligheden er fornuft. Der findes en norsk filosof. Han mener, at mennesket er født med en halv promille for lidt.
Altså, jeg må sige, jeg kunne da godt sådan bruge en halv promille sådan på daglig basis for at få lidt mere selvtillid.
Det har vi da alle sammen brug for. Det har du da også brug for.
Jeg synes, det er spændende.
Det gør jeg også.
Så det er det, vi gør.
I'm going to watch 30 movies, a movie each day in June. It's day 6 of year 8 of movie month, and the podcast will start soon. He's going to watch 30 movies, some good films and some lowbrow. Year 8 of fans, not experts, movie month, and the podcast starts right now. Year 8 of movie month, that much you already know. Year 8 of movie month, then now it's time for the show.
What a life, what a night, what a beautiful, beautiful ride. Don't know where I'm in 5, but I'm young and alive. Fuck what they are saying, what a life. I am so thrilled right now.
6 days into movie month, and I'll have to say that I watched some movies that I enjoyed. Some movies that I had fun watching. You could say they're good, you could say they're dumb, you could say they're okay, you could say they're convoluted and weird. But there were all these kind of spectacle, genre type movies. Today, 6 days in, I feel like this is the first film that I watched. The first, like you think of music, you think you could have these big bands and you can have these singer-songwriters. This is like the equivalent to a singer-songwriter film. Small, no special effects really needed. And just a kind of story of men, of 4 men kind of in middle age, in various levels of middle age. And I have to tell you, I did not know anything about this movie before the Oscars. I fill out an Oscar ballot just for fun, and you get to international movie, and I'm like, I don't know. And then I like watching. I see that Another Round wins for Best International Film. And I see the preview, and I'm like, I recognize that actor, Mads Mikkelsen. And the director comes up on stage and gives this heartwarming speech, and it's like kind of a tragic speech where he talks about how his daughter was killed right at the beginning of filming in a car crash. She was hit by a car or was in a car crash. I'm not exactly sure. And I read quickly that before recording this, that she was going to be Mads Mikkelsen's daughter in the movie. It was going to be a son and a daughter. But then it was like days into filming, she was killed, and they kind of... So the director was dealing with this in his life while making this movie, and you kind of thinking about that again after watching the movie, seeing the main character kind of feel like he's stuck, feels like he's doing pretty good, feeling better about himself, but kind of for false reasons, realizing that it's not quite all there, going a little too far, reeling back, then finally kind of realizing that everything's going to be okay and just kind of releasing at the end. Just was like looking at what the director, thinking about what the director and co-writer, is going through while this is happening. It just, I don't know if there's a parallel there or not, but I'm trying to make one if there isn't one. But anyway, I see that on the Oscars, and again, I'm like, oh wow, that's interesting. But I never think I'm going to watch these international movies. But then I was recommended. I watched this movie by a very special co-host of mine.
Michael, this is Chris. Figured I would give you a shout because I heard you were doing the 2020 movie, Another Round. Great Danish film. Doesn't have the budget of the previous films you've reviewed so far, but not gonna lie, probably better than all of them. So hopefully you have the same opinion of this movie as I do. But as a side note, I have been doing the same thing for the past 20 years, I want to say. A little blood alcohol over 0.10. I think today I'm probably at 0.18. I don't have that handy breathalyzer that those Danish fellows have. But good stuff. Those Danish really know how to make a film. Mads Mikkelsen was fantastic, to use a word, also. Guy should have been nominated for an Oscar. Fittingly, it did win Best Picture, but all in all, great movie, especially the end. Spoiler alert. What a fucking life. So, I think I'm going to watch that end scene again, have another beverage, and toast another round.
What a night, what a beautiful, beautiful ride.
Fantastic. What a fantastic message from a fantastic guy who is a co-host of mine on a fantastic podcast. Folks, if you aren't subscribed to Fine Movies, Fine Spirits, that's not fantastic at all. So yes, a lifelong friend of mine, Chris, recommended that I watch this movie. So I was texting backward and forth with him today, telling him today's the day. Today's Another Round day. And so he wanted to just kind of jump in and let us know, remind us how great this movie is, and let us know that he is he's following the philosophy of this film to just kind of keep it at that level. So I didn't know anything about this movie at all going in. I read like that paragraph description, and from my understanding, I thought it was okay. A bunch of teachers kind of let loose and drink a lot, and it was so much more than that. There was an actual story involved. And first of all, this is a Danish film, which I now know. If I didn't listen to Chris's message beforehand and didn't quite look at anything and just hit record, I would have said Swedish a lot, and I would have been wrong a lot. So it's not Swedish, it's Danish, and I don't even know what that accent was. I'm sure I offended somebody. But this is one of those movies where it's an international movie. It's a foreign language movie, so it's in Danish. I think in the Danish title is like Druk, D-R-U-K. Does that mean drunk, I guess? And there is a name in it. Like there is a well-known guy who's been in Hollywood, Mads Mikkelsen. Hannibal on the Hannibal TV show. I first became aware of him as from Casino Royale. Was he Le Chiffre? Then, he's done a bunch of different things. He's been in Marvel movies. He's been in Star Wars movies. And according to IMDb, he's going to be in an Indiana Jones movie. But the nice thing about this guy is he's a great actor, first of all, English or Danish. And he can play intense. He can play like scary. But what I'm seeing in this movie, in this performance, is that he can play small. He can play just kind of a guy going through life. He can play sad. He can play depressed. He can do it all, I guess you could say. Like, that's just showing me this range of this actor who is not just, this typecast villain guy. All in all, I can say that, all the performances were great. He was great. And let's just go over the whole movie. Now, I'm going to talk about this movie, so if you haven't seen it, it is on Hulu. But, again, it's in Danish with subtitles. You're going to be reading. To me, that's how to watch these foreign language movies. I did watch that TV show Dark, a German show, and by default, it had the dubbed language over it, which not great because it's not like, it's funny, they have subtitles that don't match the dubbing because the subtitles are the exact translation of what the people said, where the dubbing is kind of like almost like an adaptation where it's Americanized. And to me, even knowing that far too late into the series takes away a little bit, just a tiny bit. But again, on a TV show, I don't care as much. On a movie, I do care. I've watched and read all of, Seven Samurai. With last year for Movie Month, I did Parasite. If there's a dubbed version, I want to stay away from it because I want to hear the real actors, real voices, real emotions. Sure, I got to look down and read, and maybe every so often I got to pop back because I may have missed something. But that's fine. I can deal with that. A lot of these movies are, with these movie months are kind of been done in chunks. I haven't sat down to watch an entire movie except like The Conjuring 3. But this one, the same thing. I started a little early. I finished it a little later, but it was okay because I was able to take breaks. So I'm going to go through the movie. Again, warning now. Watch it on Hulu if you care about spoilers. What is this movie about? We have Mads Mikkelsen is a teacher who kind of just is, I don't want to say he's content. He's just kind of unhappy. He's got a wife who works nights. His kids kind of like, hey, how you doing? They don't really care. And he's, even at school, he's kind of aloof. I thought he was drunk right away. No, he's just kind of like, man, he's going through the motions. That's the thing. He's just going through the motions. And he's like, oh, I got going out with one of my friends. One of the teacher friends is turning 40. So these four guys go out, and, Mads is, he's not even drinking. They start drinking. One of the guys talks about how he's got, a pretty wife. She's loaded. He likes his job. He has a house by the beach. He's, pretty happy, except of course his kids piss in his bed all the time. And he's, basically just constantly doing whatever they want. You could see there was a little just like, he felt like he's a little bit stuck, but he's happy. He should be lucky. Then you got this other guy who is like, we find out later, he's a music teacher. So this guy is the psychology teacher. Mads is a history teacher. Then we have the music teacher who we don't hear it here, but we hear it later where he's like, he wish he had children. He's jealous of them for having children. And later on, one of the characters says, these kids that your students, they will always remember you. So you may not have children, but you have these kids to look back on. And then you have the coach / gym teacher. So these four guys hang out, and they start drinking. And Mads, they make a joke to, his name is Martin. So they make a joke to Martin, and he almost kind of starts opening up, starts crying a little about just how, him and his wife just haven't been getting along very well. And then he decides, okay, I'm going to have a drink. He didn't want to have a drink. He was driving. They're like, let's have a drink. And the psychology teacher's like, there's this famous psychologist who says, he has this belief that human beings were born with a 0.05 deficiency in alcohol blood content. The blood alcohol content, is that what it's called? Blood alcohol content. That they're born with a 0.05 deficiency. And by drinking enough every day to get you to that 0.5, you kind of balance things out, and that's how you can actually function better in the world. And they kind of laughed about that. And one of the guys is like, we should put that to use. We should put that to practice. So they start talking about it, and I watched it today. I think Mads at first just tries it, just kind of depressed, does it, drinks a little bit, and just kind of felt a little looser at work, a little looser during the day. One of the friends, I think, is that when he says, I can't drive home? And one of the friends takes him home. They actually get together with the guys and they say, we could do this. Like, we could actually do this and make a research out of it. So they're trying to do it almost like trying to take like an academic approach, where we're going to research this, we're going to document it, and we're going to try to put this to the test. So they all say, we're going to do this, we're going to drink every day. Now, there's some rules because we want to, no drinking on weekends. You drink during work. You don't drink after 8 p.m. They talked about like how, Mads Mikkelsen goes into school the next day. He's a little loosened up. He starts talking about, there are 3 candidates out there. And one of them is, has high blood pressure and drinks every day. And the other one drinks, blah, blah, blah. Like he gives all these like things about drinking and smoking. And the third guy doesn't drink at all and is very respectful of women. Who would you vote for? And they're like, the third one. And he's like, well, you wouldn't vote for Teddy Roosevelt, you wouldn't vote for Winston Churchill, but you would vote for Adolf Hitler. And it was almost like he was these students earlier in the movie even had their parents there with him, and they were with a parent-teacher conference, and they were like, are we learning anything in here? He started connecting with the students more. The music teacher ends up, like trying something where he's teaching like a chorus, and the students aren't quite right, and so he tries an approach where he turns off all the lights and he gets them to sing, and they sound beautiful. And the gym teacher starts to connect with one of these students. He becomes really close to this little student he calls Specs because his little kid has glasses. And then I forget, the psychology teacher they were reading poetry. Reading a poem, I think, in his office, in his class. But what they started doing was starting to loosen up, feel better about themselves, do better at work, and just kind of, they were happier. And I'm watching this going, so is this what's going to happen here? Like, this movie is just going to be like, hey, look at this. You want another round? You want a drink? We're just going to celebrate drinking. And I was like, okay, I'm on board. If this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to be. But what I like about this movie is that this isn't what it was. It was so much more than that. So, Mads Mikkelsen's character, Martin, he starts loosening up. He starts trying to kind of have a little more fun with his family. He's like, we should go somewhere. We should do something. We should go on a canoe trip. He gets them to go on a vacation with them. He makes love to his wife for the first time ever, or the first time in a while. And she's like, what's gotten into you? He's like, I'm sorry, I've been distant, I apologize. I want to be more present. She's like, she was floored, but she's like, I hope it's not too late. It might be too late. I was like, whoa. And so at one point, I think even to dull that, he starts saying, they start looking at this research more. And he's like, there's a thought that if you're, what was it? Tolstoy? No, some Dostoevsky. I don't know. Some composer who couldn't write, or maybe it was a writer. Maybe it was a Russian writer who couldn't perform or couldn't create unless he was right at the line between drunk and sober, right at that line. And they start just pushing it and pushing it more. They go out to have this like great night of drinking with friends. Like, we just see them celebrating and having a blast. But what also starts to happen is you kind of start to see the edges, the world, the decisions they're making starting to collapse around them. So we got, this was actually really fun because they're at the rich guy, the psychology teacher's house, and the teacher's the wife's leaving with the kids, and she's like, you need to go pick up some fish, some fresh cod. and they just decide they're going to start drinking and having fun, and they go out and they go to try to buy the fish. This was like one of the funniest moments. They go try to buy the fish. There was no fresh, there was only frozen, so they go to try to catch the fish. They're trying to like stab a cod right by the docks. Hilarious. Like, I was laughing out loud at these moments. Like, these guys are just like, they're like midlife crisis, going for it drunk, not caring about the consequences. And there were plenty of consequences. Number one, the gym teacher, he actually like left bottles that were found by a janitor. They thought maybe some kids did it. Number two, it gets to the point where Martin's wife wants to leave. Like, you find out she's cheating, and he basically kicks her out. The psychology teacher with the wife and the kids, he comes home drunk, gets in bed, and he falls asleep and pees all over the bed himself. She leaves and says, "I'm going to stay with my sister. You get whatever it is out of your system." And I feel like the other guy, the fourth guy, the music teacher, I'm trying to think if anything really negative happened to him. I'm not sure. But it just kind of like, they kept pushing it. And at one point, Mads is like, "I got to get my life together. I can't do this anymore." But then they make a drink that looks so good, and they all go crazy for it, that then he drinks, and they're dancing and having fun. And it's just like then they come to find out that, the principal suspects the teachers have been drinking. And the gym teacher guy, Thomas comes in, just basically stumbling into the room. And it was pretty much, everyone could figure out that he was drunk. But I don't know if any of the other guys got caught or in trouble. It was just like, Mad's wife left him. Or Martin's wife left him. Thomas was all alone with his 18-year-old dog. He was just, and he was, Martin goes to visit him, and Mad's the guy, Thomas, is like, he stumbled over drunk. He's like, what? Oh, he couldn't find where it was. Like, he was going really deep in. And the psychologist guy, he's, I said his family left him, so he was stuck home alone too, just kind of depressed by things. And then it kind of all comes to a head when it was like a weird thing where the guy Thomas, who owns a boat, took the boat out with his dog, and it felt like something bad was going to happen. And then you see the boat. I think you see the dog on the boat, but that's it. And you kind of guess that this guy who has seen depressing, yet his coaching was doing better. Like, things were doing better, but it was a fake better. It was a masked improvement on their life. It was just covering up their depression or their inability to cope. Just that's, I guess that was the message, that you think alcohol is doing great, but it also, it isn't like, some magic potion that's going to be a solution to things. And then, so we come to find out that this guy is dead, and it's pretty evident that he took his life. He jumped off the boat and killed himself. I don't know if there was a comment about you can't swim. I don't think that was ever brought up because the music teacher jumped in the water and went to go swim across the shore, just across this little space. I forget if that was brought up. But all three guys kind of meet. Now the psychology is back with his wife and his kids, and they're so he and his wife are at the funeral. They're all the pallbearers. They never explicitly say, that he died. They never say what happened. They don't have to. That's the beauty of a well-told story, is you can show me, what is it? Show me, don't tell me. Like, we just see it. And it was a really kind of sad, touching moment where this guy who was the high school coach, gym teacher, also coached youth soccer. And this is, he would have them sing like the Danish, I assume it's the Danish national anthem or some kind of Danish, like patriotic song. And his team was there at the funeral. And one of the kids, the little kid that he kind of befriended, who really became close with him, like, he was afraid of, the kids were picking on him. At one point, he held the coach's hand. It was funny. He wanted to take a drink from the coach's water bottle, but it wasn't water in the bottle. But the kid comes over, puts a rose on his casket in the hearse, comes back, puts his hand over his heart, and starts singing the national anthem with the whole team there. And that was really cute and touching. And while this is going on, at the same time, we're kind of seeing the joy of these high school graduates passing their tests. Oh, you know what? That's right. The music teacher it worked out, but what a crazy, step to take. Now, the drinking age in Denmark is 18 years old, so these kids are probably of age. But he had a student who was, they were taking their exams, and he was very super anxious. He wasn't able to go through with it. And the music teacher's like, why don't you have a shot? Have a shot at you. Don't tell anybody. Just take a drink. And the day of, this is some advice he gave the kid. The day of the exam, the kid goes to walk out. He goes, here, take a drink of this. He takes, he has his water bottle, and he's like, take another one. And then during the exam, the kid kind of clammed up a bit, and he's like, hey, why don't you take a sip of water and collect your thoughts? And we know in the water there was probably, vodka or something. But there was no repercussions of that. The kid passed his test. So it's a weird kind of mix where it's like, it does kind of still, it can help. It can take the edge off of things. But using it to mask everything is a bit much. One of my favorite scenes is the psychology teacher. He goes into one of these offices and he starts drinking, and like they're trying to test their blood alcohol. So at certain moments, this guy and Martin are drinking. They're trying to keep that 0.05. Then they try to get up to a 0.1, and they have their own breathalyzers. So we get to see like their readings there, and they take a more drink to kind of bring it up a bit. And the psychology teacher at one point, he snorts the alcohol because he says, no, this is better because it gets into you quicker, and they can't taste it. They can't smell it on your breath, which was hilarious and like oddly wise. But so I guess that's, that was funny to talk about. But for the music teacher to kind of suggest that the student drink, I thought that not really a low point, but not a great look. But while this is going on, because we still have these students graduating, they have this backdrop of these high school graduates have this tradition where they have this race and people drink on these races. And then even when they graduate, they have this big tradition, big celebration with drinking. So after the funeral, the teachers get together and they're just kind of hanging out, and they're like, what do you want to do? He's like, well, what would Thomas want to do? And what would Thomas want to do? He'd want to go drink. So they go drink at this place. And Martin starts getting these, and they're not drinking heavy. I think they might have been really light about it. But Martin starts getting texts back from his wife because he tried to reconnect with her. He told her he missed her, and she was not having it. But then he gets a text towards the end of the movie and says, I miss you a lot. And, all this stuff's going on. He was feeling depressed about his life. He was, finding some comfort in alcohol with his friends, bonding, quote unquote, an experiment that kind of took off. It crashed at certain points, and leading to the death of one of his close friends. And at the same time, being happy for all these students who graduated from high school or secondary school, whatever the term is there. And then feeling like he lost his family, and then to feeling like he might be getting his family back. The emotions that this guy goes through. Earlier in the movie, they're like, oh yeah, he used to do jazz ballet, and we get up and dance. He's like, no, I don't want to dance. He never really danced throughout the movie. Now, Mads Mikkelsen is a trained dancer. He was a dancer early on. And this movie just kind of ends where they go hang out, they go see the students, and they congratulate them, and the students start handing them champagne and drinks and that. The music teacher, the students throw him in the air like, hooray, hooray. He goes up to one of the friends. He's like, did you see them throw me? Did you see them throw me? To me, that line was a kind of callback to one of his friends saying, if you don't have kids, you still have these students. These students, you mean a lot to them, and they'll remember you for the rest of your life. And then he sees these guys celebrating a big moment in their life, celebrating with him, celebrating through him, throwing him in the air. I think, I don't know, I made a bookend kind of connection to that. I thought that was really fun, a really cool little moment. And then they just start drinking and drinking and drinking, and Mads just friggin' lets loose. This song plays, the song that you heard at the beginning of this episode starts playing. He lets loose, dances like a mofo, and then just jumps off the dock at the end of the movie like, I'm happy again. Doesn't have to quite live off the alcohol, but just kind of jumps in the water. Yippee! And the freeze frames on that, and that's the end of the movie. That's the end of another round. It was fun as hell. Great acting. Even though you got to read it, still great acting. Then it was depressing as hell. Then you felt sad. Then you felt sorry for these people. Then you kind of are like, you know what? It's okay to let loose and go a little nuts. And that's what he did. And it's funny. I'm not a huge drinker. I will dabble. I have, I think my first time getting really drunk, I was 29 years old. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And I just went for it. My friends just kept pushing Long Island iced teas on me, and I'm smoking cigars on Miami Beach. And let's just say that's not the only thing I did on Miami Beach, literally on Miami Beach. And it's just like, it's been few and far between those moments. But this made me go like, wow, whatever that drink is, it must be really good. It's like, I almost felt like I should have been drinking. This should be a Fine Spirits episode, because I should be drinking while I watch this movie. And yet I should have drunk so much that I feel terrible. And then at the end, just feel good again. Just have the full emotion, the full roller coaster of this movie. Strong recommend. Again, it's on Hulu. So if you have a Hulu, you can watch it. I would, and if you're an actual movie fan who can get past subtitles, again, there's a reason this won the award. And Mads Mikkelsen, you can't really go wrong with him, with his performances. So I think that's it. Wow, this is like my longest episode. I'm not using my little. Sometimes I'm outside with my little portable recorder. Nope, I'm sitting here in front of the computer talking, and I just wanted to say a lot about this movie. Loved it, and thank you, Chris, for recommending it, and thank you for sending in that audio as well. But look, again, this is day 6. There's plenty of time for silly movies, okay? So don't worry. Not everything's going to be this, this Sundance Cannes Film Festival selection. Believe me. Coming up very shortly, you're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. But that's the way this is. This is Movie Month, baby. We go all over the map. But today's done. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Geek Mentality. The website, of course, is fansnotexperts.com. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. I don't do much there except post these movies with my, the little poster that I do. Everything you can possibly need to find is at fansnotexperts.com. So that's it, my friends. Happy Sunday. Until tomorrow, here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe, 'cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
What a life, what a night, what a beautiful